Okay, looks like we're live again for anyone who was with us before. Apologies on the technical difficulty. I'm just kind of learning myself how to operate all of this and how to go live. So, this is a high scorer math lesson. We're doing questions that really would concern you if you're scoring 1400, 1450, 1500. And we're going to take some questions. We're going to do two questions in this live stream that are totally the questions that if you were in your SAT, you really wouldn't know what to do. Um, so if you were at our last live stream, you notice that these things were all the same and we've changed them so they're different now. But yeah, so a little quick background for anyone who's just joining us. I'll do it a little quicker than last time. Let's just say you have a parabola and you've got two x-intercepts. So let's say 10 and 16. We know because the x-intercepts are 10 and 16 that the factors of this would be x minus 10 and x minus 16. So as you go back and forth between factors and roots, you have this negative sign thing that's going on. We don't know for a fact that this function looks like this because there might be some other number right here. And if you had another point, you could plug that in and find out what a is. So now another thing you need to know is synthetic division. So let's just practice that for a second. Let's say we had something like this, 10x squared minus 5x plus 2. And let's say we wanted to know, is x minus 3 a factor of that? Now you can use synthetic division to figure that out. So for synthetic, you take the root or the x-intercept. So if this is the factor, then the root or x-intercept is x equals positive 3. So we're going to put positive 3 in the box, and we're going to put those three numbers, 10 minus 5 and 2. And so this is how you do synthetic division. You bring down the first number, and from then on, it's multiply, add, multiply, add. So multiply 10 times 3, add 30 minus 5, multiply 25 times 3, add 75 plus 2. So just in terms of testing out whether this is a factor or not, we know that this is the remainder. And if this were going to be a factor, then the remainder would have to be 0. So we know because there was a remainder that this is not a factor. So we know that whatever parabola we have going on, we know it's not hitting the x-axis at x equals positive 3 because x minus 3 was not a factor. Now let's bring it back over to this hard question that any high-level student, if they were practicing for their SAT, any high-level student wouldn't know how to do this unless they learn how to do it here or with any other tutor. So let's go ahead and find out what the root would be for x minus 3b. Well, like I said before, if you had something like x minus 5 as your factor, the root would be x equals 5. So on these simpler ones, all you're really doing is flipping the sign over. So if it's x minus 3b, then the root would be x equals 3b. Now, the root or the x-intercept, that's important for us right now because that's the thing you put in the box when you do synthetic division. So 3b right there. And let's just say we were trying answer choice D here. 2 minus 3 minus 12b. So we're not really caring that there's a b in there. We're just going to go ahead and do our synthetic division. So we'll bring down the first one. And for synthetic, you do multiply, add, multiply, add. So 2 times 3b is 6b. Add straight down, 6b minus 3. Now multiply that by 3b, and we would get 18b squared minus 9b. So we just took this thing and multiplied it by this thing, and we got that. So now we're going to add straight down from here. We have 18b squared minus 21b. And if this is a factor, then this piece right here will be equal to 0. So is it equal to 0? Or can it be equal to 0? And if that happens, will b come out as a positive integer? So let's set it equal to 0. 18b squared minus 21b equals 0. Now, by the way, this is an AB quadratic. In other words, quadratics are in the shape of ax squared plus bx plus c. And this has an a and it has a b, but it has no c. For AB quadratics, you want to use GCF factoring. You want to take out the greatest common factor. So what's our greatest common factor? It's 3b. And when you factor it out, it leaves you with 6b minus 7. Now, once you take out a GCF, when you're doing AB factoring, the next thing you do is you set each piece equal to 0, because that's called the zero product rule in math. Now we can solve both. We can divide by 3 here. We can add 7 here and divide by 6. So our two answers are 0 and 7 over 6, and this is for answer choice D. Now the question says, which of the following would have this factor as long as b is a positive integer? And b came out positive, but it didn't come out as an integer. So we know from the work we just did that it couldn't be answer choice D here. But let's try out another answer. Let's try answer choice A. So now A is 2x squared minus 3x minus 9b. So in synthetic division, we're not concerned with the x's, just the coefficients, 2, minus 3, and negative 9b. So what we're doing right now, by the way, is we're testing out answer choice A. And if x minus 3b is a factor, then positive 3b is going to be a root. Now, by the way, people who have taken an SAT in the fall of 2024, you know you've seen a question like this. And you know when you got to it, you didn't know what to do, right? So that's why we're here, and we're going to help you guys know what to do in these situations. So bring it down. 2 times 3b is 6b. Add straight down, 6b minus 3, because those are not like terms. They can't be combined. Now 6b minus 3 times 3b, that's 18b squared minus 9b. And now when we add straight down, we'll have 18b squared minus 18b. Now, once again, when you divide using synthetic, if you end up with 0 right here, then you know it was a factor. So we're going to set it equal to 0, assuming that, yeah, it is a factor. That's what we did on the other one as well. So 18b squared minus 18b, we're setting that equal to 0. Once again, that's AB factoring. So we're going to take the GCF, because when you do AB factoring, you take out the GCF. Did I mention this is a high scorer lesson? You have to be someone who's really right there on the cusp of a good score to be following along with this, because this is one of the harder questions you're going to encounter. So we're taking out the greatest common factor. 18b squared divided by 18b is simply b. Negative 18b divided by 18b is negative 1. From here, you have the zero product rule, which is the idea that if these two things multiply out to 0, that could only happen if one of them is 0. So according to the zero product rule, you set each piece equal to 0. And now we'll divide by 18. And we'll add 1. And guess what? B came out to a positive integer. It came out to 1. And that's why A is actually a factor of A is the expression that has a factor of x minus 3b. And that's our answer for that tough question. Okay, so now another question that high level Ivy League bound scholarship achieving students probably didn't get right when they saw it on an SAT, something of this nature. So if you really want to get there, you've got to be familiar with every one of these hard scenarios. And you do that by going through the Blue Book practice tests, by the way. and just doing everything you can to get your score going. Now, before we get into that question a little deeper, this is the Gradeful website. Our slogan is SAT Prep for All because regardless of where you are in terms of affordability, you can use our tools to get ready for your SAT. Here on our website, gradefultestprep.com, we've got 4 ways that you can prepare for your SAT. One is you can use the Blue Book tests. You can take a Blue Book test on the College Board website, and we've got on YouTube an explanation for every single Blue Book question, whether it be math or verbal. You can also use your score report to go through the question bank questions, which we'll talk about in a second. We also have free AI tools for SAT vocab. Notice it's free. We also have our own proprietary math questions that you can use. This is all on gradefultestprep.com/practice. And last but not least, this one does have a cost to it. It's $4.99 a month through a YouTube membership. And here we have the entire SAT question bank, and every single question has a video solution. College Board recently added 350 new questions, and we're hustling over holiday break to add those questions to our database. So if you really want to get ready for your SAT, Gradeful Test Prep has 3 free solutions for you and 1 very affordable solution. If you compare that to a tutor who charges upwards of $100 an hour, this is a really good deal for $5. In any case, one of the harder questions on any SAT. This is tough because you need to use a factor by grouping method. And the only way to really know that is to have gone through a couple of these practice questions. So the factor by grouping method as it applies here is the idea that we're going to get everything on one side. So I'm going to subtract this over to the right-hand side. So 0 will equal x minus b squared minus x minus b, 3x plus 5. And by the way, you guys will have to forgive me if there's anyone sending in a chat or anything like that. I'm still learning a little bit about where to see all of that. Okay, and looks like there's nothing on the live chat. But by the way, if you're on here live and you have a question about the SAT, send in a little chat. Let's go ahead and help you out. But okay, so back to this question. So we moved everything to one side, and we have a greatest common factor. That greatest common factor is x minus b. In other words, I have a term right here in blue, another term right here in green, and they both have a factor of x minus b. So if we remove the x minus b, it leaves us with what? Well, if we divide this by x minus b, we're going to have another x minus b still squared, because still there because it was squared. This blue thing is x minus b, x minus b. So if I remove one of them, I still have one left. And in green, if we remove x minus b, we have that minus sign that was there in the middle that we can't forget about. And we also have 3x plus 5. And we have to be really careful with these, with that minus sign there. So that's why we use the parentheses. So cleaning up the red one a little, we've got the x minus b, and we've got x minus b minus 3x minus 5. And now we can just kind of combine like terms. Negative 2x minus b minus 5. Okay, so we have that there. And now we have our 0 product rule, which says that if 2 things multiply out to 0, that could only happen if one of them actually was 0. So we'll take each piece and set it independently equal to 0. And we'll start solving for x, because the solutions of one of these things are going to be the x. So x is different than b. B is a constant, quote unquote. So we'll move the 2x to the other side, and we'll have negative b minus 5 equals 2x, because when you moved it over, it became positive, and divided by 2, and x equals negative b minus 5 divided by 2. On this one, x equals b. So now what we have are our 2 solutions. X is equal to b, x is equal to negative b minus 5 all over 2. And the question said the sum of those solutions is 10. So b plus negative b minus 5 all over 2 is 10. And now we can little by little solve for b. So let's multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that denominator. And we'll have 2b plus, so we distributed it here. Now when we distribute here, the 2 on the bottom is going to cancel with the 2 on the top. The 2 on the bottom is going to cancel with the 2 on the top, leaving us with negative b minus 5. So let's write it like that. Minus b minus 5. And that equals 20 because 2 times 10 was 20. So now you got 2b minus b, which is regular b, minus 5 is 20. Add 5 to both sides. And b is 25. So we took 2 super high level questions that seem to be appearing on real SATs lately, and we explained them to our highest level students, the kids who can't afford to get one question wrong because they really want to get into their dream college and save their parents a lot of money in scholarships and all that good kind of stuff. So feel free to join us on upcoming live YouTube streams here, and comment on any of our videos on the Grateful YouTube page and make some requests for what we can talk about in our upcoming live streams. Thanks so much.